This is the book of First Corinthians, chapter 7 and verse 27. It reads, Art thou bound unto a wife? Seek not to be loosed. Art thou loosed from a wife? Seek not a wife. Shalom, shalom, Akim. Before I begin, I want to start off by giving all praises, honor, and all glory unto our Creator, Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Chakodash. Double honor to the elders and apostles of the elders of Great Millstone. All right. Peace, blessing, salutation to the hopeful elect, Wak, who I listed in truth and sincerity. The brother Gabari Allah with another lesson. And this lesson is going to be entitled, Seek Not a Wife, or something along those lines. All right. If you're lonely, or something, something along those lines, pretty much pertaining to not seeking a wife. Now, this is something that, you have a lot of Israelites, okay, from these bug out camps, all right, who, like the IUIC, I believe they get you a wife, like they make they make women like marry, uh, individuals in that camp, all right, which is, you know, people only go to that camp because they want a wife or some shit, okay, and that whole building a community in this earth, that's all bullshit, all right. You have a lot of Jake who want to build a community here and want to, it shows you that they're not ready to let this earth go. They're not ready to let this earth, you know, be free, so to speak, or they're not ready to be free from this world, depart from this world is the word I'm looking for. They're not ready to depart from this world. That's why they're seeking women. That's why they want to have kids. That's why they want to start a community. That's why they want to do this, that, and the third. Okay, which, I'm not saying it's wicked to have kids or whatever. A lot of Akim are have kids, and there's nothing wrong with that, but in the sense that they're doing it, okay, they're doing it to start a community and they're doing it to, be of this world, okay? But, the scriptures clearly say, that you got to be ready to depart from this world, okay? Now, I'm going to open up again with the book of First Corinthians, chapter 7 and verse 27. Art thou bound unto a wife? Seek not to be loose. But this is the point right here, the second part of it. Art thou loosed from a wife? Seek not a wife. Right, man. If you don't have a wife, okay, you shouldn't be out here, seeking a wife, man. Okay? You shouldn't be here wanting to, have kids and so-called make love and all that shit. It's all bullshit, man. You know, it's all bullshit, okay? Because all these women on here are all harlots, the scriptures say. The book of Amos, chapter 7 and verse 17. All right, I'll start at I'll just get straight to the point. Verse 17, it reads, Therefore, thus saith the Lord, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, thy wife shall be an harlot in the city. Okay, thy wife shall be an harlot unto the city. So they're all a bunch of hoes, man. And you got uh individuals of this world, okay, who don't want to accept that. All right, you don't want to accept that because there's two bitch made, and this ain't what do they call it? Toxic masculinity or whatever. That's a bullshit term too. It's not. It's none of that. It's straight out the Bible, man. All right. If you don't like the words that I'm speaking, you don't like the Bible. Simple. You're not going against my word. You're going against the word of the Lord, man. The Lord ordained this. That's why you have a lot of women who are atheists now. A bunch of fatherless activities, man. And it shows you the importance of having fathers in the home, but you have a bunch of punk ass men who don't want to be fathers, who just, lay up with a woman, get her pregnant, and then leave. That's also punk shit to do, man. And then Jake grew up without without a mom, or it's like without a father. Or you have Eve that grew up without fathers, and they do fatherless activities, man. And it clearly shows, man, because they end up growing up to be harlots. The men end up growing up being fucking feminine. Okay, they're so emotional. They get too in tap with their emotions. They don't think logically. They think like a woman. A woman thinks with emotion. A man is supposed to think with knowledge. A man is supposed to think with wisdom. Like, okay, you know, They may not do this. That's why a lot of times they get mad quick and then they shift moods, man. They got mood swings. That's fucking demons, bro. One minute they happy, the next minute they mad, and the next minute they happy. It's like, yeah, what the fuck, man? Why would you want to be around it? You know? That should be something you should be happy. Truth be told, you should be happy in this world without a woman, man. You know? It says, therefore, thus saith the Lord Yahweh Shem Shai, thy wife shall be unhardened in the city, right? Pretty much you being a whore, and thy sons and thy daughters shall fall by the sword, and thy land shall be divided by land, thou shalt die in a polluted land, and Israel shall surely go into captivity, forth of his land, right? Our people are still in captivity, man. You know, all right, there's a whole bunch of videos of a bunch of nonsense, a bunch of shit, man. It's all fucked, man. That's all right. That's why it's best to not have a wife, man. That's why Peter gave that a counsel to in the book of First Corinthians, which I opened up with. Oh, it's like your Paul. He said, he said, hey, you don't got a wife, don't be looking for him, man, because he knew that they're nothing but a bunch of trouble, man. Okay. All right. He knew it was a whole bunch of trouble, man. All right. That's why the Apostle Paul, he was like, yo, you don't got a wife, don't look for one, you know. But you have a lot of Jake who get, lonely or whatever you know, they want to get action and, to say it lightly. All right, there's other ways of doing that, man. There's other ways of, just get the action. Don't cling yourself to a wife, man. All right, because that's a lot of responsibility, man. I was watching a video, a classic walk and talk from the elder apostle Gabar and the elder apostle Ramlab, who were both, a walking talk, and I believe elder apostle Ramlab was behind the camera, and elder apostle Gabar was the main speaker. Right, and one of the things he said is that, pretty much tapping into the point that once you have a wife, it's a distraction from this ministry. Okay, especially on Saturdays where you know what you got to do on Saturdays. Okay, the whole day is dedicated to the Lord. It should be dedicated to the Lord, man. You know, all right, or at least most of it. Shit, I don't get home till 7 o'clock, man. Most of your day should be dedicated to the Lord, man. That should be the main thing of that day. Okay, doing what I gotta do for the Lord first. Going to the camp. Cool. You get home. All right. Maybe you go watch a movie or something. You know, that's your own time, but you gotta serve the Lord first. And a lot of these women, they can't deal with that because they want attention for themselves. That's why they get so angry. And they won't tell you this shit. They'll even lie to themselves, man. But it's all in the scriptures, man. That they're Right, that's why the elder Yara likes to say, treat them like kids, man. All right, go do your thing. Treat them like kids, man. Okay, 'cause just like a little child, they have short tempers, outburst, emotional, cry when they don't get what they want, and they give you the silent treatment. You don't want to go get in and out, so she give you the silent treatment, man. You know, that's all bullshit, man. All right, so this is more of a, you know, um, it? It's more of a, you know, message to the brothers who are trying to seek a wife, or a brother who may be, thinking about, damn, I mean, I'm a little lonely, or I want a wife or whatever. That's you're thinking with your rod, man. To be honest with you, you're thinking with your rod, man. You should be thinking in the spirit. Okay, okay, all right, cool. It's cool to lay up with a woman, all right, but then hey, don't make it, you know, don't make that, don't make it your wife, man. You know, get some action in, but you gotta do what you gotta do, all right, in this flesh, but then you gotta get right back to the spirit, man. You know, if you don't want to be marrying a harlot, all right, and truth to be told, all these women are come from adultery because the first man you lay up with, that's your husband, okay? That's your husband. That's who your husband is from the rest of your um for the rest of his life. Even if he divorces you, you are not to have another husband, you know? Only if the husband dies, man. Okay? And that husband, if you divorced her, you can't get back with her either. It's not like you divorce her and then you can't get remarried, you know? Once you divorce her, it's through, man. You can have another wife, she can have another husband, but you can't have her as your wife again. Okay, because the men of old, King Solomon he had 700 wives and 300 concubines. All right. King David, when I believe what's her name, Michal, I believe her name is, when she was uh mocking David for dancing for the Lord, so to speak. Okay, Scripture says she hated David in his heart because she was dancing for the Lord. And what did David do? She said, okay, you're not getting the rod for the rest of your life, man. Those other women that you saw, they gonna get it, but you're not gonna get it. Matter of fact, let me pull that account up real quick. All right. Salakia. But this is the book of 2 Samuel, chapter 6, and verse 16, going into the account. And as the ark of the Lord Yahweh came into the city of David, Michal, Saul's daughter, looked through a window and saw King David leaping and dancing before the Lord Yahweh, and she despised him in her heart. Right? So Michal, she was like, oh, she didn't like it. She despised him in her heart. It says, and they brought in the ark of the Lord Yahweh and set it in his place in the midst of the tabernacle that David had pitched for it. And David offered burnt offerings and peace offerings before the Lord Yahweh. And as soon as David had made an end of offering burnt offerings and peace offerings, he blessed the people in the name of the Lord of hosts Yahweh, and he dealt among all people, even among the whole multitude of Israel, as well to the women as men, to every one a cake of bread and a good piece of flesh and a flagon of wine. So the people departed, every one to his house. All right. And it says, uh, then David returned to bless his household, and Michal, the daughter of Saul, came out to meet David and said, how glorious was the king of Israel today, who uncovered himself today in the eyes of the handmaids of his servants, as one of the vain fellows shamelessly uncovereth himself. So Michal is, she's mad at David, and she's, pretty much cussing him out. And this is what David said. And David said to Michal, it was before the Lord Yahweh who chose me before thy father and before all his house to appoint me ruler over the people of the Lord Yahweh, over Israel. Therefore, I will play before the Lord Yahweh. Okay? So he's pretty much saying, bitch, you better watch who the fuck you're talking to. This was for the Lord. I'm going to play for the Lord. It says, and I will yet be more vile than thus. I will be base in mine own sight. And of the handmaids which thou hast spoken of them shall I be had in honor. All right, so David said, you know what? Those women that you saw, now I'm gonna have they gonna have me in honor. Meaning he gonna lay down with them. He gonna sleep with them. Therefore, Michal, the daughter of Saul, had no child until the day of her death. Like, what do you think that means? David ain't give her no rod to the day of her death till she died for speaking up against him, man. You know, this was King David, man. All right, who the Lord chose, man. The Lord So this was a righteous thing, man. Okay? Because the Lord adored David. All right. But that's pretty much the point, man. I just wanted to say, seek not a wife, man. You'll be better without a wife. It'll be better for the ministry, for your own salvation, man. This is for your salvation. Okay? Hold on to the Isaiah 4 and 1. Behold, in that day 7 women shall cleave unto one man. All right. So, right now we got work to do, man. Ain't no time to be building families and all that, BS. So with that, Lord willing, was edifying. Call Allah Yahweh Hashem Shai. Double honor yet again to the elders and apostles of the Great Millstone. Peace, blessings, salutations unto the hopeful elect, Waqwat, who are listening in truth.